been living and working in the Netherlands for quite a while. Therefore was very grateful for this being delivered in English. My background is at the intersection of many different disciplines. I'm actually a bachelor in business administration from a school in the UK, which was one of the detours that I did. But I have my master's in social and cultural anthropology was the one that really formed my thinking about the world. And from there I went into Drift, into the Erasmus University to do my PhD. And I'm going to be sharing parts of that journey. So I'm going to go quite some way back in what I'm going to be sharing now. And to position myself, the kind of research that we're doing at Drift and at Erasmus University is focusing on what we call persistent problems. Persistent problems are problems that are complex. You know, they don't have really, this is the start, this is the end, this is how we can draw the causal relationships. They are uncertain in the way that, more knowledge will not necessarily solve those problems. They are difficult to manage since there's very many different perspectives and people involved. And they're also hard to grasp. You think about climate change, biodiversity loss, energy poverty, the structural inequalities of society, and you get kind of a picture. Now, in the field that I'm working, sustainability transitions field, the idea is that these kind of problems can be addressed only through radical transformations. And these transformations are also called transitions. I know there's a kind of a linguistic issue around what is a transition, what's a transformation. I'm going to use it as a synonym just to ease it a bit into. But transitions, in the end, are long-term processes. So there's nothing that happens from today to tomorrow or something that we can steer within a year. They are radical and structural changes. And here we'll use the terms in cultures, structures, and practices of society to make it more understandable. And we always look at the systems level. Systems can be socio-technical systems, such as the energy system, which I will draw on some examples today. But we can also talk about cities or regions. So it's really in the eye of the ones looking at the system to make sure where the boundaries are and how to also cross them again. And of course, high levels of complexity and uncertainty involved there. And from this view on the world, so just the basic view on the world of a sustainability transition scholar, is the question, of course, how does that then translate to social innovations? Now, we are interested then in social innovations that are new social relations or new social practices that are changing the ways that we're doing things, thinking about things, or organizing them. So also taking a rather broad perspective on it, but specifically in those that are transformative in a specific sense. And we say social innovations are transformative to the extent that they challenge, alter, or replace the existing structures, cultures, or practices of a society, of a societal system. Taking an example, I see all the Dortmund people smiling when I put up this slide. They've seen it like 10,000 times. That was the research project we have been working on together at the very first one, where we came up with this theory thinking. So if you take the example of community energy, you can think of, for example, an energy cooperative, right? And it comes with new ways of thinking around who's the producer, who's the consumer, thinking actually in terms of prosumers. It comes with new ways of organizing, much more cooperative and decentralized forms of energy production. And also comes with new ways of doing, right? You need to go up on your roof and actually see how this solar panel is doing or not. And these are transformative to the extent that they actually challenge the existing centralized fossil fuel-based energy system. And so we also look at it much more as a process than as something that's not either transformative or not, but also very context-dependent. And from that background, I will take you into a number of how we are researching social innovations at Drift mainly. We're doing that through what we call process-oriented forms of research. So we look much more into what Christoph has introduced as transdisciplinary research or as research collaborations, what you have introduced, and give you some practice examples of it, and then go from there into what higher institutions are doing or not for this kind of research and breaking a lancet for that. So if we look at process-oriented research for social innovation, you can of course think about transdisciplinary research, which is big in the German-speaking context specifically, where we think of, that you have science and you have society, and they come together in a process where they together frame the problem, they analyze it, and then come with solutions that they either push back into the realm of science or that they take to solve actual societal problems. And it's about working together across disciplines and with societal actors, so the collaborations that were asked for. So we used this kind of research approach in a project, EU-funded project called SONET, the Social Innovation in Energy Transitions project, where we were focusing on understanding what's the diversity, the processes and the contributions of social innovations to the energy system and to energy transitions. It was a multi-method, multi-partner project, as these European collaborative projects are. I'm not going to go in all to that, but I'm going to focus on the city labs on top, where we were working in transdisciplinary ways together with those cities who were also part of this project. And here we were focusing through the transdisciplinary work on building capacity in local governments for social innovation. So each of these local governments were coming with their own challenge around how to transform their energy systems, and we were supporting them in learning processes through a method called reflexive monitoring. I'm going to focus in on the city of Antwerp, which is the city that we worked with together. So they tried to address energy poverty and foster just energy transitions by really focusing on building networks, having people learn from one another. So they set up something that's a living lab, I think is the most common term to denote it. It's at program level. You have a number of people coming together to see, to do a systems analysis, to see what's actually happening in Antwerp on the topic of energy and how does that relate to energy justice and energy poverty. Where are these practices that are promising in that regard? So they were focusing on those four, it's all in Dutch. One was, for example, the rental of household appliances. So rather than buying very expensive but very good on terms of energy label new household appliances, poor households would get those on rent and therefore also lower their energy bill just by having new devices. That was one of those examples, the example of Papillon. And there's three more also working together with energy cooperatives. So this was really what Antwerp was trying to do, building this network in their city to work on these and addressing their energy poverty that they were facing. Now we were into the game because we wanted to see how this process of experimentation for energy justice could take place, and also how reflexivity can actually be triggered. How can that learning be triggered in that process? So we involved them in this process of reflexive monitoring. It was developed 2010-ish already by the University of Wageningen, Barbara van Mierlo, she's really the thinker behind it. And it is a method to work with system innovation projects, supporting them along the way, monitoring what they're doing and helping them through reflection to also change the course if they notice something is not working. So it's not about having the end, the start and the end and do an evaluation. It's evaluating ongoingly and also just changing course if you notice something is not working. So it's a very applied method to do, but also one that really helps those initiatives to keep up to their transformative ambition, we call it. Like they want to change the energy system, they want to make it less energy poor or less energy poverty. So how can they do this? And in this process, what we were specifically also noticing is that, Simon already said it, social innovation is not good nor bad, and that is an ongoing discussion since in much policy work, there's a quite positive definition of social innovation. Social innovation is always for the common good, for example. But taking a more analytical step on this is also just making the space for saying what does it actually do and what can't it do. So we were looking into the dark and bright sides of social innovation in relation to justices and injustices. If you, for example, look at this renewable energy prosumerism, such as energy cooperatives, you can see, and I'm not going to go through all of these, but just to highlight some, they are, of course, more decentralized, they're more inclusive since they have based on a membership basis, but they're also exclusive in terms of who can pay the membership fees in the first place. Just to give one example, and in order to see this whole picture, it's important to also take that analytical stance and be critical around those. I forgot to ask, and I'm going to do it now. Who has experiences with transdisciplinary research? I just wanted to. They can go up. Yeah, cool. Okay. Yeah, a third. Who has experience with action research? Yeah. Oh, cool. Also very good. Oh, I was hoping for that. So action research in the end is also a process-oriented form of research. But what it does much more, it goes from knowledge to action, right? It's the outcome is not only knowledge that then can be brought into action, but it is already engaging in transformative action in the process of doing the research. And what it also has is a much more normative goal in the sense that it aims to address unequal power relationships. And this kind of research I used specifically with a team of colleagues in my PhD research. So I go way back now with you in the year of 2010 to 2015, where my students usually don't remember, but many of you might. We had the big global economic crisis, right? So 28, 29 was this crisis. And after that, states had saved the bank and were left with no money, to go into the British perspective, no money left to care for their people, for the welfare services. That's what happened also in the Netherlands, which is in that sense much more kind of UK-oriented than maybe Germany. So we saw this move from a public sector to a big society. The society had to solve their own issues now. And that was the context within which we were going into a neighborhood in Rotterdam South, which is the most deprived area of the Netherlands, or considered as such, to be thinking with them about how does a sustainable neighborhood look like. That was what we were paid for by the research project to do. We wrote it up in very vague terms so that we could have space for those, and Simon alluded to that, space for actually coming up where are these questions locally, and to be able to bridge that gap. We were also partly financed by the city, and they were really saying this is a problem neighborhood and we need to just empower those people to just do it themselves, and I need to come out of this. And this was the context within which we worked, and we used, it's the full slide, so you don't need to read these details, I think you can't even, but the idea is that we use transition management or transition governance principles to go with them through a process. This is the yellow one, of first understanding what was this neighborhood about. If you go somewhere and you want to just, you can of course dive into and say, this is it, but you want to know where you are. So we went very anthropological, field notes, sitting at schools and all this. And from that, deriving an understanding of what are these problems that these people actually experience, coming together, framing the problem with them in kind of deliberate arenas. And from there, when we understood the problem, and they understood the problem as well in different ways, into what's the possible futures you would like to have, and then develop experiments to go there. That was also our ideal. We managed to do it because we had to for the European project, but the more interesting thing was that they busted the whole process during our second meeting, where they came and said, this is nice, but we actually are really, really concerned about our community center, which is going to be closed, or is closed, because of the new situation with the welfare services being retreating, but we need it. And so we had a whole process with the community around, like, why is this? It's just bricks. What is important around this? And what does it do for you? And how can we open it? So this was really the transformative action part of it, engaging with this community to understand what's the value of this and how can they open it in self-governance. And while this might sound very localized, it actually is one of those symbols for how self-governance can work, and not under which circumstances, and which conditions. And there was a very vivid example of this in Rotterdam that was also then spread across the city. So this is action, research, and transdisciplinary. Just to set a bit of the stage, what I understand about it, and I hope I set that stage, but also to see what pursuing such research actually means for academics. So turning now to the academic system, and one of it is, I just love this picture. You're not being objective for those to those researchers saying, we want to change the world. So what is it? Who are you then as a researcher? What's your role? And how do you then relate to those people coming knocking at your door? Hey, we want this community center to be opened. Why is this my problem in the first place? My grant doesn't say this. Why should I care? I'm not paid for it. My rankings don't, allow for it. Why do care? So doing this, you run into all sorts of these kind of challenges, but more. There's epistemological challenges. If you invite other people into the room, what's knowledge in the first place? Spiritual knowledge, experiential knowledge, how you that then integrate with, fine-grained analytics or measurements. How do you bring it together? So the epistemological challenges coming together when you do this kind of research. It's methodological challenges, how to then do it, whom to involve, whom not, who will be invited to the table, who not. And and what is to be the output. There's all these personal challenges of who are you as a researcher, but also what is actually good research, and who defines what is actually good research? What's a university for? We had that just in the discussion. Is it only teaching? Is it only research? Is there something else, or is that just enough because it's already a lot? So who's setting the agendas? But there's also the whole question around institutional challenges that Simon alluded to, and I will also go into a bit more depth. So there's all these types of challenges, basically leaving one wonder, this is not a normal way to do research. Right? So considering transdisciplinary research and action research actually as a social innovation in the academic system, and therefore also needing different kinds of conditions and enabling factors. I will just go into two a bit more. The one is rethinking who you are as a researcher. So when I was working in this action research in Canisse, and maybe others of you who had first started a transdisciplinary research, is this question, who am I and how many? You know, I was really flabbergasted by it. I was mature, I was 25 because I had worked before as well. I was like, but this is like nothing I had worked before. And it's also not only inside, it's also coming from the outside. People coming with quotes like this, I give you a bit of time to read it. But the gist is that, usually, we are perfectly able to separate our roles. But if you actually engage in, all of this becomes a bit obscure, and actually you're obscuring the analysis. You're messing with your data. Was the first remark I got when I had my very first conference presentation, which was an awful experience, and kind of, but getting me into this, like, what is this? Where does this come from? So if you take more positivistic kind of views on research, this is what you're going to get. But then you have Kurt Lewin. Who knows him? Or the name? He's one of the founding fathers of action research and a pragmatist by heart. Kind of saying, you cannot really understand the system until you've tried to change it. So it's only by actually engaging is that you understand what's kind of hindering change. And then you're kind of like really flabbergasted as a PhD student, right? Like what to do. And you're not alone. There's many people who have been writing about it, and also especially in the last year, since we see this topic of many, especially PhD researchers, going to be asked to do this kind of research, really struggling with, what is the role of researchers. So there's different burgeoning literature basically around this. This is stuff. This is a paper that I've been doing with Nico Schepke, who has been doing lots of work on world. Reallabore, world living laboratories, I don't know the English translation. And we just basically said, okay, there's at least 5 roles. We missed one on the one out, that's the project manager, just because it was so into our faces that we didn't see it. And that's also, how do these go together? Do they go together? Are they conflicting with one another? Does every researcher has to be able to do all of them? No. We were struggling with these terms. Others have also looked at how our research journeys evolve over time. So you're not one or the other all the time. It's basically you change over time. And this is a research journey, as in a PhD research journey I took the one of Flora Avellino, which some of you might know if you've read Transitions and Social Innovation Literature. It's a paper by Catherine McGowan where they basically put down the research journeys on this quadrant of from more generalizing research to more specific context-dependent research, and from more theorizing to more participatory research, and really show that this is a whole journey in the 6 years that she did that got PhD research. But you also have it in the transdisciplinary research writings. You see that this should be the time frame of a transdisciplinary research project, where you have in green the involvement of societal stakeholders, from informing to co-producing, and you see how this is kind of moving, but also the involvement of other disciplines. You also see kind of this movement up and down. So it's really something that changes over time. And from there, going to these institutional challenges, and I'm going to be rather quick on that one because Simon has said all of it already, I think. Let me see. So I think one of the things that's really important when you do this kind of research is the kind of time investment it costs. It costs time to, first of all, find the societal partners, to get them to work with you, to find common ground. Like, where is it that you come together and have a shared interest, and to work on this. And that is not efficient in the university consideration of that word, because you are not contributing to any kind of high impact journals, articles, and this kind of things. So the performance metrics are very specific, they're very small, and they have nothing to do with anything you can do with transdisciplinary research. There's this international competition, of course, we've said that. So this whole university culture is very competitive. Like it's very these islands, there's the professor and the rest, kind of. And these professors, actually talking to one another, do they dare sharing ideas and really openly discussing, which is an innovation culture you would need, because it is through exchanging ideas and getting, inspired and working on those, not alone, but together, that we can create a better world, whatever that means. So it's this focus on scientific excellence, the disciplinary boundaries. We heard that on the business schools, very difficult, and these rigid career paths. This lack of commitment of key decision makers, we have seen in the talk of Simon how important key decision makers at universities are or can be. So at my university, the Erasmus University, they have this strategy that is actually ending end of this year, but it was creating positive societal impact. Who can be against any of this? The question, what's positive, for whom, what's impact, economic, social, ecologic, and how do we do this? But it's not that we're not dealing with those tensions that arise from transdisciplinary research and being caught up in such a system. So what we did with Barbara Kump and Christina Bogner is a study into how are Erasmians, so people working at Erasmus University, dealing with those tensions. And we came up with 2 ideal type strategies from all those interviews that we did. So we did purely descriptive research on that one. So one is this strategy of pursuing academic excellence with an outcome that serves a societal purpose. So you basically go out, do your research, you have results, and you take those results and have a policy recommendations, or you have a policy symposium sharing those, but it's something that you do at the end. Once you've done your research, then you use this to do, for example, policy impact. You do that really committed to the current academic norms. The second strategy is much more doing it kind of the transdisciplinary way, is engaging in societal challenges through the actual research process. So here you do the transformation already through the research process, and you have much more following the stakeholder needs as one of the guiding principles. What all of this calls, the social innovation of transdisciplinary research in universities, in the academic system, it calls for more social innovation in that system, right? It kind of needs to change. It calls for this university transformation. And taking our university by the letter of their creative, positive societal impact statement, I'm going to just share how we did that at our university. So we actually managed to get some money from this strategy money to build what is called the Design Impact Transition Platform. And when I say we, it's mainly my boss, Dirk Lobach, a professor at Erasmus University and also director of Drift. And he was also heading this Design Impact Transition Platform, looking into empowering these radical new ways of how we could do academic work that could then serve societal purposes and also make space for social innovation. And we did that by first also looking into what's then transformative research in the first place. What is transformative academic work? So one of our things was looking into, okay, what is it that we understand it in terms of, it should be systematic, it should be, describing, but it should also be deconstructing, really know what's good, what's bad, what works, what doesn't, but also not stopping at the deconstruction, but reconstructing again and looking forward. It should be plural in terms of looking into what are these different kinds of knowledges that we can build upon, that bring new insights, but also new inspirations into our theoretical frameworks, working on that collaboratively with others, doing it iteratively. It's never going to be only one go and in reflexive ways. This all sounds really good on paper. We know, and then this is the realization of this is what all the dimensions that hinder and or can enable it. So we did a literature review into what are these key dimensions that influence the institutionalization of transdisciplinary academic work. And you can look into, of course, the organizational values, what is actually valued in an organization, and how is that being translated in institutional culture? What are these narratives that are told on the work floor about what's good science, what's good research, what's a good academic director or a good colleague? The organizational structure, how is it being set up? Are there the siloed faculties? Are there some cross-cutting organizations? How is collaboration being organized, for example? What does leadership say? And how outspoken are they not only when the door is closed, but also when they are on a public stage around what would be important for the university. And then this question of training, when you want to more people engage in transdisciplinary. I don't say we need to all do this, right? I know that this talk is specifically focusing on this, but I don't say we need to all do this. But if you want to have young scholars, but also older scholars, pick up this, they need to be trained. Like, not everybody can pick up the phone and talk to somebody. Some feel really, really strange about just picking up the phone, calling Unilever, hey, I would like to work with you if you want to work with Unilever. So what is the kind of training that they need? How can we use, and I heard this example that Simon just said, how can we involve societal actors into, policymakers into our teaching? How can they actually already in the courses work together with our students? How needs funding to be organized to make space for it? I think this is a really, really big question. And of course, the reward structure is not starting about this. So as part of this DID platform, we have been experimenting with many things, but I'm going to share 3 different experiments, social innovations. One was around looking into alternative career pathways. So this is my former colleague, Oliver. And his style was a transformative research developer, which again sounds really, really nice. What it aimed to do is taking away the separation from support staff and academic staff by pulling this together. I know that in Germany, this transfer offices becoming something really big, but where are they located? There are support staff, right? And then where is this link? Why is this put in one of those boxes? Where is the link happening? Especially if you think about transdisciplinary research being both. And you need different capacities and skills to do so. So that was our try to do it. Also at the ESSB, which is the faculty that I'm located, Erasmus School of Social and Behavioral Sciences, they are experimenting with different ways of academic career. So you have an academic, you can have it as with a teaching profile, so you have most of your percentage of your time is teaching, with a research profile, and the third one is now an impact profile. Basically, as of associate professor, you can go and choose for an impact profile that should alleviate you from some of the targets in terms of publishing. A second thing that we were looking into were these alternative funding schemes. How do they need to look like if they are making space for transdisciplinary research? So I've been working with Access, which is a platform at the province of South Holland. The province of South Holland wanted to give a push to the circular economy transition in their region, and were setting up this knowledge platform that is Access. And Access was actually how we reframed their work when we were working with them, an innovative funder of transdisciplinary research in the ways that they already started bringing together researchers, entrepreneurs, farmers, and others before an actual research project started to talk about, what's actually the deal here and where do we want to start, what should we focus on, and kind of building these coalitions on the way and really coaching them up to submitting a proposal that would then be granted because it had been coached into it. There's no way would be like of the objectivity and it's all gone, but it's a different way of doing funding. And the third one is alternative education. So we set up a master's program on societal transitions. It's now running in its 2nd year, and there the innovation that we were trying was on the one hand on the content level. Masters at universities need to be knowledge-driven. So we said no, we want them to also develop capacities. So of course we couldn't kick out the knowledge at all, but it also really developing capacities around thinking, acting, reflecting and relating for transformative change. We got that into the curricula, and it's centered around this. And the other innovation was around really every course is having faculty from different faculties, so staff from different faculties. And what we wanted to do organizationally is not having it anchored within one faculty, because then the logic takes over. You have the exam commission, you have the ethics commission, you have all that. That's all catered to one way of doing research. But it's an interdisciplinary program, so how could this one way of, policing exams be doing it? We didn't succeed. It's now at the philosophy faculty, which was the one that was most cooperative in a way. But we were very happy with the philosophers, so that's good. And This sounds maybe very small, but I thought it make it concrete, so we have some concrete examples to refer to. But they're really part of a broader movement that also Simon has referred to, right? There's, for example, Future Earth on an international level, but there's also the Climate Initiative Netherlands, which really try to do different ways of funding transdisciplinary research. There's all these movements around open science, about citizen science, decolonizing academia, so thinking around what knowledge counts in academia. In Germany, there's the Gesellschaft für transdisziplinäre und partizipative Forschung, which is really new and just established. So there is some institutionalization also of this kind of research now happening. Another one is the Declaration on Research Assessment, the DORA. Maybe some of you have heard around it, like different ways of assessing research. I love the slow science movement. I would just warmly recommend the book of the slow professor. It's really alleviating some of the pain. It's a way from getting away from the publish and perish, like, 10,000 papers and so what? What is it that you actually said in those papers? And also the alternative academics movement, is an academic only a person that works at the university, or can you develop knowledge also outside, and how is that then working? Okay, so by way of summing up, in order to support the emergence and development of social innovation and to enhance that transformative potential, there's different ways. And I just showed three, building local resilience, building capacity in local governments, but also in universities for social innovation as a way of building this social innovation ecosystem. There's also this idea of building a movement of movements, which we did in the Transit project, where the theory of transformative social innovation comes from, and do that with critical, open eyes about the subject that you are studying. And this kind of research has a social innovation in itself, and therefore running in all sorts of challenges that actually ask for this university and academic system transformation. And I want to close with this one, and it's really just a reminder that the way we describe the world shapes the world that we live in, and that this is also very important in our work that we're doing as academics, and the way that we describe it, in the way that we act upon it, does change how others perceive it. Thank you very much.